everyone. Jamie Smith, the president of Lenetco, was supposed to run this session, but he was pulled away at the last minute. So my name is Adam Bristaco, and I'm the service manager at Lenetco. I've been with Lenetco for 15 years, and I was one of the architects of the BAASS Cloud solution, and I also manage our technical team. So I have very intimate knowledge of the BAASS Cloud platform, and I'm happy to share some of that with you today. Just speaking on Lenetco, Lenetco is the sister company of BAASS and one of the BAASS group of companies. We are the IT division of that group of companies. I want to be very respectful of your time, so I will keep this as brief but as informative as I possibly can. This conversation will be focused on the hosting platform itself and not specifically on Sage 300. It's assumed that if you're attending this session that you already most likely have knowledge of the Sage 300 product itself. Okay, so our first slide here is just a housekeeping slide. So we are presenting this on the GoToWebinar platform. There is a desktop app, which is shown on the left-hand image here, and a web interface app shown on the right-hand image. So there is a method to ask questions in both of those, as shown in the screenshots. Also, alternatively, if you think of something later on or you're not comfortable asking the question live in the webinar today, feel free to give me an email at adamp@lenetco.ca or to Jamie Smith, the president, jsmith@lenetco.ca. Jamie also has an alternate BAASS email account, so jsmith@baass.com if that's a little bit easier to remember than Lenetco. I will also have these email addresses available on the final slide of the presentation today. So if you're scrambling to jot those down, we'll have them at the end of the slides. Okay, so on this slide here, this screenshot kind of shows you what the solution looks like. It's a remote desktop window with Sage 300 running in it. This image itself is actually cropped. At the bottom of the screen, you would normally see the Windows taskbar as you would on any Windows device. So what are we talking about today? We're talking about Sage 300 hosting with BAASS. So what does that mean? What it means is we have an installation of your Sage 300 license and data on our managed infrastructure. And the managed infrastructure is located on servers in Toronto. So, organizations are typically looking to remove on-premise servers for a variety of reasons. Perhaps you're looking to go domainless. Maybe you're looking to move your file shares into the cloud so that they're in the cloud, and maybe you can incorporate some kind of collaboration tools. Companies are often looking to move line of business applications, maybe like a Sage 300, into the cloud. People are looking for SaaS type models. Also it's just the companies looking to remove servers, remove complexity, remove backups, security, risk, and the IT resources needed to manage all of these. And another thing we often expect from a cloud offering is that, hey, I need access from anywhere but securely. When do we most commonly see companies shifting to the BAASS Cloud offering? We typically see this most often at the time of an upgrade for Sage 300. That's when those conversations tend to happen. But it also comes up when there's some kind of change of IT infrastructure at an office. Maybe servers are getting old, they're starting to get, they're ailing, they're struggling to keep up, and people are looking for alternatives to move those workloads into the cloud. We also see, new clients to BAASS making new purchases of Sage 300. This is always a topic of conversation. The one thing, though, that all of those scenarios have in common is that this is a new, fresh installation and environment of Sage 300. We're importing your licensing and your data, but it's all fresh installs and fresh installations. Okay, so why hosted? Why hosted with BAASS? So with BAASS, you're going to get best-in-class Sage support from BAASS, who is the largest Sage partner in North America. Now, you're going to get best-in-class support from BAASS even if you're doing this yourself on-premise. The difference here is that we're adding a server platform that not only far exceeds the Sage suggested requirements, but is also optimized with best practices by both BAASS and Lenetco. Sage is still installed by your BAASS technical team using the BAASS implementation best practices. The platform exceeds Sage recommendations, as I mentioned, as well as BAASS's ERP technical team recommendations. And really, we provide kind of one throat to choke when it comes to problems. So if there were ever any kind of an issue with the implementation or afterwards, both BAASS and Lenetco technical support teams work together. We work in some of the same offices. Me as a service manager at Lenetco, I have direct access into the service manager at BAASS. We have access to each other's technical teams. This reduces the time it takes to communicate between teams, scheduling between teams. It also reduces finger pointing in the scenario of an issue. Nothing's more frustrating from a customer experience than when you're dealing with two separate technical teams. One technical team is blaming the other and vice versa, and you're kind of stuck in the middle going, I don't know who to believe, who to trust. I really don't know what's going on here. So it kind of eliminates all of those if there were ever a potential issue. Sage is supported by your BAASS lead consultant and their support desk. So by choosing BAASS as your specialist, you get best-in-class support. You're also, if you're choosing the BAASS Cloud, you're getting a platform designed and optimized for Sage 300 that gives you a best-in-class experience. And so kind of by choosing both, you're kind of putting all your cards in your favor. The solution itself is turnkey. We provide the servers, the backup, the security, the business continuity, the support. Again, implementation is taken care of by the BAASS technical team and the Lenetco support team. There's very little interaction required on your side or your IT team's side. Really, you're providing the internet and a computer to connect to the platform. We like to mention here that the solution is scalable. You can increase or decrease users as you see fit. We also provide the Microsoft licensing, Windows, SQL, Microsoft Office. All of that is scalable as well. It scales up and down with your user count. All the users are listed on your invoice. Changes, adding users, removing users, those are called out on your invoice as well. So it's very easy for you to take a look at your invoice and just confirm that, hey, I'm paying for the amount of users I have. I didn't forget to let somebody know that we no longer have a user with our company. And the solution is tailored to fit your organizational requirements. Speaking very briefly on security here, Lenetco, we hold ourselves to the standards of CAN CIOSC 104, which is a Canadian cybersecurity standard. On the platform is Lenetco's fully loaded security solution. We also do all the patching for the Windows environment. Security detection software is on all the servers. We implement our server lockdown best practices. Multi-factor authentication is required to access the platform. And it's a secure access channel into the platform using a product called Parallels, which is a remote desktop solution, which is also encrypted, I should mention. So last thing I want to just point out on this slide is future proofing for upgrades. So when it is time to upgrade, we have this infrastructure already in place for the upgrade. The transition for your users is straightforward and seamless. In upcoming slides, you're going to see there's an icon on a web page to click on to get into the environment. In the case of an upgrade, if you have users that are going to be testing the upgrade when it's ready before the go live date, we can provide that icon to them so they'll have a choice to go into the new environment and test it out. And on the day of an actual cutover, it's seamless. Your users do the exact same thing they always do, but instead of an old icon, we remove the old one, add a new icon. You can't miss it or anything like that, and you go right into the new environment. Okay, so how does this work? So first things first, you're going to need a web browser to connect. Google Chrome, Microsoft Edge, Firefox, all the flavor of modern web browsers are compatible with the solution. You're going to get a URL for the solution. So it's going to be yourcompanyname.baass.com. It's customized to your company. That will land you on a web page that looks very similar to what you see here on the slide. Each of your end users will have their own set of credentials to sign in. So they would enter those, hit the login button, and then we are asked to authenticate with multi-factor authentication. In 2023, I hope this isn't a foreign concept to you. And just as a side note, if your email is not protected by multi-factor authentication, please do go ask your IT teams about this. It's very, very important in this day and age. Our platform supports Google Authenticator, which is a free app in any app store on any smartphone, but really any QR code scanning authenticator app will work, whether that be a Microsoft Authenticator app or others by Cisco called Duo. For those of you that may be in a situation where a smartphone is not available for whatever reason, we do have a separate physical hardware token that can be purchased. It is at an additional cost, but this key fob will have a 6-digit rotating code that rotates every 30 seconds, and you would then input the code on this same type of screen. Once you've passed the multi-factor authentication, you are into the actual portal itself. And as you can see in the image here, you'll have an icon for the remote desktop window. We typically customize things to be single monitor. So for those of you with multiple monitors, you could have this open on one monitor and then your actual own computer open on another. So that is an option there. So once you double click, you're launched directly into the environment. Which looks a lot like this. So you're going to have that blue banner across the top of the screen denoting that it is a remote desktop session. You have the ability to put it into windowed mode or to minimize it back to your computer. Again, this is the same image that was shown earlier. It is cropped. You'll normally see the Windows start button in the taskbar along the bottom of the screen. In there, you'll have a Sage 300 icon like you do now, I assume. You double click it, and each user will have their own set of Sage 300 credentials as well. Very likely, very similar to what you have today. Okay, so at this point, I just want to jump over to common questions. We have a series of questions here that we commonly get. So I'll start with common questions that we get from the organizational level decision makers of companies, financial teams. These are some of the things that that repeat and come up over time and that people come back to us with. So, right off the bat, people are asking, hey, what size of deployment, how many users is typical in installation for the BAASS Cloud system? And the answer is really, it's anywhere from 1 to 100. We have all shapes and sizes on the platform. The vast majority of our clients are in the 3 to 8 user range, but we have many installs that are 30 to 60 users and even beyond that. So it's very, again, it's very scalable in that sense. Other questions we get are, hey, Adam, I know we can connect from the office, but can I connect from home as well? And the answer is yes. We do have a security layer in place that is surrounding accepted or allowed locations. If your office has a static IP address with your internet provider, can take that IP address and make that an allowed location. But when you then go home and you try and use your customized URL, yourcompany.baass.com, you're going to find that it doesn't work. What we do is, for security purposes, is we mask or cloak this environment from the entire world, other than any kind of allowed or accepted locations. It's very important in this day and age. We don't want bad actors from any country, anywhere in the world, just being able to scan and even finding out that it's there. We like to keep that cloaked or invisible. So when users go home, there is one additional step. You have to go to one additional website, auth.baass.com, type in a separate set of credentials, username and password. And at that point, that makes your home or wherever else you may be an allowed or accepted location. And it'll stay as an accepted location for a period of about 16 hours, at which point you'd be forced to do the process again. So from the perspective of working from home, it's one additional step that's very straightforward. And if you were to do that on a consistent basis, yeah, you would have to do that at the start of each session every day. Okay, another question we get is, can I add third-party products? And the answer is yes. And this is not just Sage 300 hosting. We can do Sage third-party products as well. The solution is very customizable and very malleable. We can do print boss, EFT processing, payments, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Anything that you can do on premise, we can do in the solution as well. We get questions all the time surrounding printing. Can I print to my check printer in my office? The answer is yes. We do this all the time. We're very flexible on that front. Again, surrounding printers, can I print to local printers? Can I print to the printers back in my office? Can I print to printers at home? The answer again is yes. We have printer directions, redirection, I should say, so that your printers are going to come right into your remote desktop session. It's very rare that there's a problem there these days, but if there ever were, you could reach out to the Lenetco support team. We'd absolutely help you on that front. Another question here is, hey Adam, what do I need to provide? Well, what are the system requirements to working with the BAASS Cloud solution? On your side, it's providing the Sage 300 licensing and data, providing internet to connect, If you're going to be using a Windows computer, it's Windows 8.1 or more recent. So you're talking Windows 10, Windows 11. Having those up to date is important as well. But we also support Chromebooks and MacBooks. Aside from that, it's just whatever you're going to do for multi-factor authentication. So we're talking a smartphone with the free app installed, or alternatively, if a smartphone wasn't available, that hardware token key fob that I was mentioning earlier. And lastly, from that side of things, we get asked about local file shares. Even at Lenetco ourselves, we find that when customers are moving their file shares locally into the cloud, oftentimes people are picking SharePoint teams for that. We find that a lot of finance teams are resistant to that kind of change, whether it just be complexity in Excel documents or whatever the case may be. And they find that they're kind of like, hey, they're left asking, where can we put these files that are local? So the question comes up is, hey, can we move those into the BAASS Cloud solution as well? And the answer is absolutely yes. We absolutely can do that. We can do file and folder security and kind of mimic what you may have on premise already. We see all kinds of companies migrating their finance file shares from on premise into the BAASS Cloud solution. Okay, so I have a couple other common questions here that we get from just standard end users. One question that we get asked is, Adam, do I have to do MFA every single day? And I'm sorry, but the answer is yes. That is a critical layer of security for us. We absolutely have to have that in place. It's always security at the cost of convenience. And another one is copying and pasting files. Hey, can I copy a file from my local computer into the BAASS Cloud environment, or vice versa from the BAASS Cloud environment to my local computer? The answer is yes. You can right-click copy, right-click paste in either direction, Control-C, Control-V for the keyboard shortcuts. By default, this is on. If this happens to be a concern or a security concern for you, we can absolutely disable this functionality as well. Okay, so for the next slide here, I have just common IT questions. So these are questions we get from IT people, so I'll just ask you to bear with me here. We get asked about, hey, how secure is the end user connection? What are you doing to get the user connected? The login portal, as shown in previous slides, creates the secure connection. We're using a product called Parallels, which is a Corel product. There is no VPN required to connect. And as previously mentioned, we're only allowing connections from those accepted or allowed locations. Your data is very important to you. It's very important to us as well. We need to keep things secure. We get asked about the backup structure. On the server side of things, we have snapshots running 4 times a day, 6 a.m., 12 p.m., 6 p.m., 11 p.m. Those snapshots are stored on the same hardware that the servers are running on. They're there for rapid restore if there was ever an issue or a restore requirement. We do have a separate backup system backing up that data as well overnight. That backs up locally as well for rapid restore, but it also gets sent to a separate data center in Toronto. And then that is replicated to another data center in Calgary, Alberta. That last copy out to Calgary is an immutable backup. All the backups are encrypted and secure, but that last one cannot be deleted, even by us. We cannot call the vendor and have that data deleted, and that's just there as a last precaution. Okay, another common question we get from IT providers is, are any of the server resources shared with other companies? No, we don't offer a shared resource model or any kind of non-geo redundant model. We offer one flavor here, that's dedicated servers in a segregated VLAN network. Your servers and network do not talk to anyone else's. If there's anything I was going to say, I would say that you'd want to take away from the common IT questions, it would be this: identity management server. Is it shared or is it not? That's a very important question. Common identity management servers, the most common flavor is Active Directory with Microsoft. The reason you want that to be an instance just for your own company and not shared between multiple companies is if there were ever a breach at that layer, that could be potentially used to traverse between company to company on a platform. So you want to definitely ask that question and make sure that it is not shared with any other company. So again, you're getting dedicated servers, and there's also redundant everything at these data centers. So redundant power, redundant cooling systems, redundant internet, physical security is all in place, and all of those kind of items. We also get often asked about what security software we use by IT people, and we have MFA. Again, MFA is required to connect to the platform. EDR and MDR are also there, looking for signs of compromise. Those are just buzz terms right now in the cybersecurity world. I kind of think of them as cousins to traditional antivirus. We get asked about the backup structure, which I've just mentioned. We also have in place DNS security for browsing the internet. Traditional antivirus is absolutely in place, as well as a light application whitelisting. Okay, so the last question we commonly get asked by IT professionals is, okay, Lenetco, that sounds great, but what do you do to manage your passwords and your access? Are you restricted by MFA as well? And the answer on the MFA portion is yes. Admin passwords for these platforms are changed daily, every 24 hours. It's a 24 character randomized complex password rotated every 24 hours. Those passwords are stored in a digital vault, and access to those passwords is controlled with MFA access. We also have a reporting and logging in place, so we can see who's looked at a password, who's copied a password, who's used a password, and where and when. So our remote access into the environments has MFA protection as well. Really, all of our tools at Lenetco are MFA protected. I like to joke in our office and with our teams, 20 years ago, I used to turn on my computer, hit the sign in with no password, and then I'd walk away and get a coffee and come back and the environment's ready. Now the computers are much faster. I can sign in extremely quickly, but now I have to go through each of my apps with their own unique sets of user, password, MFA, user, password, MFA, repeat 7, 8, 9 times. So it takes the same length of time as it did 20 years ago with the more modern hardware, but now I'm lacking a coffee. So, all right. So that concludes the IT questions. So at this point, I'd like to just move on to any questions that you may have. So I'll just ask Pardeep. Pardeep, did we have any questions in the GoToWebinar chat?
Yes, we have. There's a question: how much control do we have over our third-party integration with Sage, such as TrueCommerce, BAASS or warehouse management system?
I guess I would have to define control in that aspect. You're going to get a very similar experience to what you had on premise for those systems. So when we see additional third-party systems like that come into play, if you're used to having admin access to control those, or if you're asking from the perspective of a vendor coming into the solution to manage those, all of that would work very similarly to what you have on premise now. There may be the difference there may be surrounding the security and the fact that your vendors will have to get used to using MFA as well. But we do support remote access software from other companies and other vendors to come into the solutions. So I hope that hits and answers that question. If it doesn't, on the next slide, my email address will be on there again. And please, you can send an email to myself or to Jamie Smith, and we can get you some more color or some more details on that if I've kind of missed the mark on that. Thank you very much. If we've missed anything, if we missed any question in the chat somehow, please, you can email Jamie or myself. Again, I'm at adamp@lenetco.ca. Jamie, dual access there, jsmith@lenetco.ca, jsmith@baass.com if that's easier. Thank you very much for taking your valuable time to tune in, and have yourself a wonderful day. Thank you.